Knowledge that ethnic cleansing has taken place on all sides in the struggle would muddy the waters. It would cast doubt on the status, for example, of the Bosnian Muslims as pure victims and the Serbs as pure aggressors.
The Bosnian government also used highly inflated numbers for incidents of rape.
We are talking about rape camps in which 14 to 30,000 women were raped and are being raped as we speak now.
Newsweek reporter Alexandra Stiegelmeier used the same numbers, but acknowledged she had no evidence to back up claims that 30 to 50,000 women had been raped in Bosnia.
Do you believe the numbers are credible?
They seem very high to me. And I don't believe the sources, because as I've investigated them, they always go back to one government or another.
A European Community Commission, which estimated that 20,000 women had been raped, dropped this claim from its final reports. After an exhaustive investigation, the UN concluded that 2,400 rapes had been committed by all three sides in the Bosnian conflict.
That we should not take sides in this war by becoming a combatant. And we have held firmly to that position, and we plan to continue to hold firmly to that position.
By the time U.S. Secretary of Defense William Perry testified before Congress in June of 1995 that the U.S. was not taking sides in the Yugoslav conflict, a full range of secret military assistance operations to the Croatian government and Bosnian Muslim forces were already underway. At a remote airfield high in the mountains of the Croatian island of Brač, American intelligence operatives assembled the unmanned aviation vehicles, known as UAVs, for reconnaissance, while Croatian soldiers guarded the airport gates.
It was known within the UAV community who they were and where they were flying. When you suddenly ran into roadblocks and couldn't get information anymore, you knew it was the Tier 1 CIA guys that were operating. You could look at truck traffic, you could identify the types of artillery, the types of tanks, their movement. With this kind of information, you could literally analyze to extremely small detail the tactical capability of a force.
Only 1 month before Defense Secretary William Perry testified that the U.S. was not taking sides, a predominantly Serbian civilian area, supposedly under UN protection, was suddenly attacked by Croatian forces. Several UN soldiers were killed in what turned out to be a massacre of the Serbian civilian population of Sector West. Thousands of Serbian refugees fled across the Sava River from Croatia into northern Bosnia. Croatian sources put the number of Serbs killed in the attack at 1,000. Serbian Orthodox Church officials stated that 5,000 civilians were killed. But there was no criticism of this atrocity by American officials, including the killing of UN soldiers, because the U.S. was deeply involved in assisting the Croatian military. Efforts by British and French representatives on the UN Security Council to place sanctions against Croatia were repeatedly blocked by America's UN representative, Madeleine Albright. 6 months earlier, in November of 1994, the U.S. Departments of State and Defense had approved a contract between a group of retired four-star generals and the Croatian government.
The Croats paid for it, but they were authorized by the Pentagon.
I had constant reports of American officers who were, quote, retired, no longer in active duty, acting as advisors to the Bosnian government's military, acting as advisors to the Croatian military, and they were very active on the ground.
The retired generals, described as high-level mercenaries, belonged to a private company known as Military Professional Resources Incorporated, or MPRI. MPRI included such luminaries as Lieutenant General Ed Soyster, former head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, Major General Richard Griffiths, Deputy Chief of Operations in Central Europe, and most importantly, Karl Vuono. General Vuono and his colleagues at MPRI would be a major asset to the Croatian army in its efforts to forcibly expel the ethnic Serbian population from the Krajina, which was technically under UN protection in sectors north and south. But the destruction of Sector West, a UN-protected area for ethnic Serbs, would have consequences in nearby Bosnia. Lord Owen wrote that by acquiescing in the Croatian government's seizure of Sector West, the U.S. had, quote, in effect given the green light to the Bosnian Serbs to attack Srebrenica and Žepa. When Muslim paramilitary leader Nasser Oric launched an attack from Srebrenica against the Serbian village of Višnica, this time the surrounding Serbian forces counterattacked Srebrenica, entering the city.
It is well known to anybody who has followed this that Oric was launching repeated attacks out of a supposedly demilitarized zone against the surrounding Serbian areas around the Srebrenica enclave, to the point where, after repeated warnings, the Serbs simply could not allow him to continue to do that and decided to take the town.
Oric and several thousand of his soldiers fled across Serbian-held territory to the town of Tuzla, several days before Serb forces entered Srebrenica and Žepa. Muslim women and children in Srebrenica were placed on buses by Serbian forces and sent to safety in Tuzla. But between 1,000 and 2,000 Muslim men were captured by the Serbs, who blamed them for participating in a string of massacres led by Nasser Oric. A Croatian soldier, who claims to have fought with the Bosnian Serbs, testified at The Hague that he took part in the execution of 1,200 Muslims, although the number of bodies recovered from the site was 200. UN Ambassador Madeleine Albright, however, used greatly inflated numbers to describe Serbian reprisals at Srebrenica. According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, thousands of Muslim men, allegedly missing, were found serving in Muslim army units near Tuzla. Washington Post reporter John Pomfret reported that 4,000 armed Muslim soldiers had escaped to a town near Tuzla. Yet these same soldiers were still being included in official reports years later as missing Muslims from Srebrenica.
Secretary Albright in particular was very insistent on using such numbers like 8,000, 10,000 Muslim men and boys who were executed in Srebrenica by the Serbs. There's simply nothing to document those numbers.
But an even bloodier episode, the Croatian army attack on the predominantly Serbian Krajina region, was yet to come. On August 1st, 1995, Croatian troops launched a massive assault on the Serbian population of the Krajina, sectors north and south.
It was an operation of about 100,000 Croatian military, yes. Tanks, planes, artillery, the works.
While officially denying any involvement in what the Croatians called Operation Storm, American forces were actively supporting this bloody operation of ethnic cleansing.
American equipment was used to jam Serbian communications at a critical moment so that command and control, at least in the communications sector, was blocked. And then there was a documented pair of raids on Serbian Krajina military facilities by U.S. Navy planes flying out of Aviano, which knocked out radar and other facilities.
The shelling of Knin was a deliberate terror bombardment meant to hasten the departure of the remaining Serbs, and it was, committed against an unarmed populace. They had street cleaners coming in and removing any evidence of the murders or the vandalism before they brought the cameras in to show the triumphant return of the Croats into Knin. So it was all very carefully planned.
Having denounced ethnic cleansing, American military planners helped